Welcome to All Things Financial. Trey Peterson, Yelisey Kuts, and today we're going to be talking about culture in the workplace. How do you lead well so that you have a team that love what they do and they love who they work with? Join us today on Leadership. Welcome to All Things Financial. Trey Peterson and
Yelisey Kuts.
And today on the All Things Financial podcast, where we help you retire once so you can retire well, we're talking about probably one of my favorite topics, which is culture. How do you lead in a way, and how do you make sure that you put your team members, one, that you have the right team members, character, the right skill set, that you get the right people in the right seats. And really at the end of the day, the goal is, how do you make sure that you have a team of people that look forward to coming to work? They look forward to seeing the people that they work with, and they believe in the mission that you spend 40, 45, 50 hours a week striving so hard for. So today's going to be great. If you've never worked at a place that you love, one of the things that I'd encourage you to do is do whatever it takes. Knock on doors, work at different places, because when you get into a culture where you look forward to being at work, you look forward to the work that you do, you believe in what you do, and you like who you work with, your days change, your weeks change, and I think you have a better life.
I would agree with that.
When we think of culture, setting a good culture, what does that mean for you?
You know, I think that people, you think back in the 90s, the 80s and 90s, I think that you saw a lot of big companies like IBM. They really went hard on setting core values and having their mission statement and their vision statement. And I think that there was a period of time up until recently where people just kind of got burnt out on that because it didn't mean anything. It was just hey, let's get our 5 words in, or let's get that, let's get it on our website. Or maybe it was just I don't know, it was corporate theater, I think, for a lot of people. Because the CEO would say, hey, my door is always open, but that it really meant hey, just don't use it.
Right.
You're not, it's just, it didn't really feel real. And I think that sometimes that people can really, it's one thing to say things. It's another thing to actually live those core values. If it doesn't cost you anything to set that core value, if it's never going to put you in a decision where you have to make a tough choice that might actually cost you something, I think people feel that. They know that it's not real, and I think that that's really what makes the difference. If you're going to set core values, make it so that you live by those values.
Well, I think a good example is every company has on their website, one of their core values is integrity.
Integrity,
but we know,
honesty.
Well, then we know
customer
not
first.
Every company acts with integrity and customer first. The example that I would use is I worked in an office before we started our company, and I remember every time I went in, it just felt like there was so much tension. It felt like the leader of the company was mad at everybody. He'd yell across the hall. And I just remember thinking, man, I don't think you could pay me more to stay at this place. I would rather make half what I make and be at a place where there's joy, be at a place where people celebrate each other's wins. And I'll never forget, basically a year into our business, we had hired some really good people, and both of us felt like, man, it feels different to have a culture where there's peace. It feels good to have a culture where the salespeople aren't yelling at administration. It just feels good where everybody honors each other. And it doesn't mean that there's not heated moments like there is in every relationship, but where everybody respects each other. And really just there's joy when you walk in. And one of the things I love about our office is I get clients saying to me all the time, or people that are in the process of meeting with us, they'll say, your team looks like everybody wants to be here. And it looks like they really enjoy being here. And it looks like they really get along, like you guys are actually friends. And that's one of my favorite compliments about our team.
Yeah. One of the things that you used to say to me about some of our previous or former employees is, man, I don't know how this person does it. And it wasn't because of anything happening here. It was everything outside of work. Remember some of our admins or even some of our advisors. And it was just so chaotic. And it's one thing to tell everybody, hey, when you walk in the office, you leave everything at the door, we're working now. But it's another thing when you actually have people that have things a little bit more in order in their lives. They have things put together, and they actually can leave it at the door, because all of us have stuff.
Everybody
but I think that's what we learned. You can't avoid it perfectly, but we have had a few hires. And by the way,
that they wore their feelings on their sleeve.
I just thought of this. All 3 of the people that I'm thinking of, and I think if I were to ask you who are the most chaotic people we've hired, you'd probably agree. All 3 of them have been divorced in the last 3 years. So it just shows you that they had a lot of chaos in their lives. Yeah. And it carries into the workplace.
But I think the point that we're making is that it's okay to be going through hard things and have hard things. What isn't professional is bringing them into the workplace.
Exactly. And I'm not saying anything against divorce. I'm just saying, hey, what a coincidence.
Right. Yeah. No, we know you're a big supporter of divorce. Just kidding. 3 points. Let me hit the 3 points we're going to hit, and then we'll hit them. Number one is you have to know your core values if you're going to have a great culture. Number two is that leaders create the culture. So you can set on paper what you want it to be, but if the leaders don't live by that, it's not going to happen.
I would agree with you. There is that element of a little bit of a top-down approach, but there's also people within even our company that aren't necessarily, they're not you and I, they don't own the company, but they definitely are within the organization.
Yeah.
And I think that one thing that is obvious to everybody, like if as a leader, if you're coming in and your mind is somewhere else and you have 30 other things going on and you're lowering the standard for yourself, maybe not showing up on time or not giving something as much attention, I think that that's felt. And I think that even like your calendar itself is a better reflection of what's going on in the organization than like anything you put down on paper like core values. So I think that you really have to live those core values personally.
Yeah. So the three things we're going to focus on today: know your core values, leaders create the culture, and then three, fun, and obviously the morale is the business strategy. So we're going to talk about that. So number one, know your core values. So when we think about core values, you know, what I think about is at all things financial. So we've got three core values. Number one, alignment. Number two is transparency and fulfillment. So when I think about that, alignment's a big deal for us. So what does that mean? Alignment in the people that we bring on staff. So do we have the same core values or similar core values? Do we put God first, family, and then business? Yeah. Do we lead with character? Do we go the extra mile, right? So having our core values in place, not just in how we live individually, but how we serve on a team. The second thing I think about when it comes to alignments is in the people that we serve. So we have clients. One of the things I think about actually is politics. Politically, we've got people all over the board. But what I love is the people that we serve, whatever party they're a part of or party they're not a part of, they agree on about 80% of the same things, meaning they've got good core values. They want our country to succeed. They want people to be taken care of. And so not only are we aligned as a team, but we're aligned with the people that we serve in a lot of our core values, which I think is important. And then the other piece of alignment is really that's what we do for people. People that are in and nearing retirement, we help them align things that they've never had to make decisions on before. Once you retire, where do you pull income from and how often? How do you make sure that you pay all the taxes you owe, but you don't leave a tip on the table? How do you make sure that when you make a decision on Social Security, Medicare, and tax planning, that it also works with your financial advisor for all those to be correlated? We align all of those things in one office. So alignment for us is not just about values, but it's really about everything that we do.
Yeah, and I think we do a really good job talking about that. Somebody might criticize and say, hey, that's kind of a broad category, but the amount of time we spend with our team talking about what it means, what alignment means for us and our organization, I feel like it's a very important core value in that sense. And I think that one thing too, that we do our best, and maybe we don't get this perfectly all the time, but we never demand any standards that we're not willing to live out ourselves. And I think that that's the fastest way to lose people. Like, I mean, think about this, like if you were to hire a personal trainer, if that personal trainer was out of shape, obese, you probably wouldn't want to hire him. But what if that person was a former Olympian, it just has all the accomplishments, has all the history, the knowledge.
They have the knowledge, but they don't have the conviction to follow through.
Right, or who knows, right? But most people just probably wouldn't hire that person. And I think that that's the importance, like, hey, we've been doing this long enough where we can give some people good advice, we can help align everything in their lives. But we also do I think that you and I really make a point to make sure that we're living in a way that's financially responsible, that we're making good, sound financial decisions, not just for our clients too, but also our team members, because we hope that many of them aspire to do what we've done in the sense that, we always give people opportunities. Hey, like just because you started here in our organization doesn't mean that that's where you're going to end up. We want to create opportunities and a runway for you to move up.
Three things that your core values must do. I love this. Number one, it has to guide your decision-making, especially in hard moments. Our business coach, Keith Kraft, has a great saying, and it's choose your heart. Meaning that every time you make a decision, you're choosing something difficult. So if you don't eat healthy, you're making a hard decision because you're going to be upset that you're not fit. If you do eat healthy, you're making a hard decision because you're not eating food that might taste better. But what you're doing is you're creating a pattern of fitness. Number two, define who belongs on the team and who doesn't. I think one of the things that business ownership has done for me, and I would guess you too, is there were times when I worked for other companies, for other people, and I would thought, how do they not see that this person's not a good fit? Like, I know they're not a good fit. Why don't they see it's not a good fit?
Right.
And there were times where I was like, how are they making this decision when it'd be so much better if they just did this? And then we started our business, and what I found is some of the things I disagreed with, it turned out I was wrong. I was like, oh, that's why the manager that I had made this decision. When I did what I thought was best, I found out that he was right in some things. And then there were things that we did that my old manager didn't do, and I was like, I was right. This was a better decision. So one of the things you have to do is you have to qualify who's the right people based on their character and their skills. And I talk about this a lot, but one of the sayings that I've found to be not true that sounds really good, and you know this, I love quotes. My whole life is basically built on quotes and philosophy and scripture. But one of the things I've found is one of the quotes that I've heard often is if you hire for character, you can train skills. And I'm like, that's so good. And we've had people that we hired for character that were great people, but they capped out and they didn't or couldn't or just wouldn't develop the skills we needed them to develop to be great. And then we've hired people that were really skilled, but they didn't have character. So one of the things that we've had to do is weed out people to find people that had the character and had the skills and make sure that they're in the right seat if they're supposed to be here.
See, I always knew that you couldn't fully train all the skills. I had a professor in college, and this is a quote that I actually really like. He used to say, hey, you just need to recognize that you don't have the intellectual equipment or the intellectual capacity to talk about all of these topics. Like everyone has a ceiling. And I think we found that. It's not that you can't be successful. You could be very successful. But everyone has a ceiling. Like I know that there's certain things that I will never be able to do, and I think you'd probably say the same thing. And it's not doing that person a favor by putting him in a job where he's going to fail, he or she.
Right.
If they're never going to be able to succeed or do the things you're asking of them, like that's not a win-win for anybody. And I think that too, you know, whenever we talk about employee satisfaction, having somebody who's a good culture fit, one thing that we've thought about is what are the reasons why people quit a job? And I think you've actually said this to me many times. People aren't going to quit because they're underpaid, they're overworked. They're not going to quit because the job is too difficult. Right. They don't quit a company for those reasons. What is it that you say? People quit a company?
Almost all the time, they quit the manager.
They quit the manager.
Yeah, so it's somebody that's leading them that's typically, they don't align with that person. That person's micromanaging somebody that doesn't need to be. Now, one of the things I will say, anyone that's managed people knows some people need to be micromanaged.
Right.
But what typically ends up happening is people quit the manager. And oftentimes it's when there's management but no care. One of the things that
they feel disrespected maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things on leading people is that your care for people is the bridge that actually allows you to lead them. If you don't care for them, it's very difficult to lead them. So you have to work with people that you genuinely care about.
Are you saying that if you genuinely care for them, you can underpay them?
No. The good news is we work hard to overpay everybody based on industry standards. We can get into that another day, but one of the things we do is we look to see what is the anchor, what does the industry say this person's worth?
Right.
Okay, how do we pay them a little more because we value them? Number 3, give everyone a shared language for what great looks like. I think one of the things I appreciate is that we have a team of people that are excellent. You know, they want to be excellent. They're striving for it. So it's not just you and I challenging people on the team. I think they do a good job of challenging and sharpening each other, running things by each other. But one of the things that, you know, I think that we look at is how do we get better as a team and how do we elevate each other instead of pass the buck when there's a mistake made? This is a good question. Can my newest team member tell me what we stand for without looking it up? You know, I think it's important. Like I would say that we've erred in this. We've gotten better, I would say, in the last 6 to 8 months in sharing what our vision is and what our core values are. I think we're better at living them than even sharing. And I would say a new team member has a good idea of what our values are just by working with us. Yeah. You know, in our industry, people probably don't talk about this on podcasts, but it's really common for someone to come in, let's say it's a new client that's working with us, and they'll sign 11 documents and they leave and they missed one. It's really common, unfortunately, that advisors would sign that and go, we don't want to bother the client. We don't want to have them back. And one of the things that we decided, you know, before we started is we're not going to build our business in a way that we have to lay in bed at night wondering, like, did one of us sign something? Did one of us do something that's in the gray? Or clearly, maybe it's black and white, but in our industry, it's widely accepted that if they signed 11 things, what's wrong with you signing the 12th? They meant to sign that. And so one of the things I think is evident to everybody that comes in is we do live by the things that we teach.
Yeah, and I think to kind of piggyback on that, we've also done a really good job, and we've been intentional on really hiring slowly and firing quickly. And I don't think we've always done the firing quickly as well as we should have.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would say that that's probably something, not only are we finding somebody that fits our culture and we're really careful and intentional with that aspect of it. And that's why I feel confident that I think that they would know our values fairly quickly, a new hire. But I think that that's probably just a great formula for anybody who's wondering like, hey, we're struggling to hire somebody. Take your time. Like hiring the wrong person will never be worth it in the long run.
Yeah, I think there has been something that's flip-flopped where I think pre-COVID, if you had a bad team member, you could let them go, and it felt like you had a dozen quality people in line waiting to take that person's job. And anybody that manages people or anybody that owns a business, I don't know how it happened or what changed, but somehow it feels like if you let go of the wrong person, you're also kind of stuck because finding somebody else, and actually you do a good job of communicating it, things that I don't always think about is it's not just replacing a good person. It's like, what about the 8 months that you spent training and developing that person and now you're starting over?
Yeah.
And not only is it their time where they're not half as good as the person that you have to let go of, but it's your time or Kelsey's time or Sophia's time that now one of your other team members is spending a portion of their day every day for the next 6 to 8 months training that person. Yeah. So I think what's difficult is you almost get held hostage to bad employees. Yeah. Where, you know, we've had series where we interviewed 12 to 15 people, and it was like, no wonder none of these people have a job. Like, they showed up to the interview late. They checked their phone in the interview. They threw around a swear word, some of them the F word in the middle of the interview. And you're like, dear Lord, like, do they not know? Did they not look on the website, the kind of culture that we have, and that professionally you don't swear in interviews? So my point is that I do feel like sometimes you're held hostage to bad team members. But one of the things that you have to do is you have to choose your hard, and the right hard is to let go of the wrong person, even if it means that there's a period of time that, you know, you're making up for that person.
Yeah, in the early days, I felt like I had to learn every part of what we did because they never felt like long-term hires, and I better just know how to do everything because this person's going to be gone eventually, and I need to know how to do it because I'm going to train the next person, or maybe I should just do it myself. And it kind of led to a couple of things, hanging on to people for a little bit too long, but also I ended up doing things that probably weren't in my highest and best use.
Yeah, they were way below your best and highest use and way below your pay grade. But those are things that we've learned. Number 2, leaders create the culture. You are the culture.
I think we already just said that a few minutes ago, right?
No,
are we on number 3?
I was re-highlighting it.
Oh, okay, great. It's a good point.
Point number 3, maybe my favorite. I always say one of our core values is fun. Now, whoever's listening, it's kind of like when you're married. Like, you can say one word and it means something different to people. But what I would say is, if you're going to spend 45 to 50 hours a week with a group of people, you better have some fun. Because at the end of the day, you're going to work hard. You're there for a paycheck to better your family. But if you're not having fun in the best hours of your best days, what kind of life is that? And I think one of the things that we do well is that we do spontaneous well, meaning that if we were to have 1 or 2 appointments rescheduled in the middle of the day, like we'll go do a team lunch, or we'll order lunch in, or we'll have everybody get in the office and we'll talk about goals and where we're at. And one of the things I really value is that we do have a team that, even though you and Kelsey and others are very task-oriented, which is really important because without you and Kelsey, I'm not sure Sophia and I and some of the others would get anything done because we like fun so much. But what I love is that we're disciplined, we work hard, but we're very intentional to have, like this summer, we've got June, July, August. We blocked 1 day a month where everybody's paid and we're going to spend that time on the boat. So I think that we do that well, but we've been really intentional to do that because we know that when people work hard, you want to also create memories together.
Yeah, I would agree.
Memories.
And I think that the distinction here is that we're not just having fun during happy hour. We're not just having fun because we threw a pizza party for somebody. Like, we have fun throughout the day. We have a culture of fun in our office. Right. And I think most people would say that. Now, obviously, we have a lot of serious moments too where everybody's cranking out work, but for the most part, we have a fun culture.
Well, I think 3 parts to that. Number 1 is everybody wants to belong to something, right? Yeah. I do. You know, one of the things you look at is people want to belong to something so bad. Some people are proud of the clothes they wear. Hey, it's from this brand. Hey, these shoes are this brand. Like, we're proud to wear and represent a brand that's making money off of us. Yeah. So how much more do we want to belong to a great company that we believe in the mission? The second thing is recognition. You know, I think one of the things that we do well is I think we encourage well. Now, we also are great at sarcasm. And what's nice is everybody picks on everybody, you know, including the front desk picking on owners and vice versa. But I think we recognize, that we also do a good job, not that we can get better, but of recognizing when team members do something great.
With our team being as small as it is, it's even as it's grown, it's gotten to be maybe a little bit more difficult. But I think that the one area that maybe becomes a little bit more dangerous is when somebody starts to feel disengaged. So, our office here, how many open offices do we have? 5, 6? Yeah, roughly. And, depending on where you are, sometimes you'll notice somebody who's just like in one office all the time.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit more disengaged. And we're a small enough team that we can pick up on that. But you do feel it. And I think that that's the one thing that I would say, hey, just be cautious if somebody disengages a little bit too much. People want to feel a part of something, but they don't want to be left out when people are having fun at the front or things like that. So,
what are some practical ways to build morale or to encourage people without a big budget?
Happy hour.
No, I think appetizers, going out together after, right? So like one of the things that we're getting more and more intentional about is we want to do like a dinner quarterly together, right? Like just time together that you're just joking and laughing and not talking about work. Or if you are, it's the funny things.
Well, I think too, that sometimes people are too quick to just like offer a raise. And I think that a raise is great. Nobody's going to say no to a raise. And I think the immediate feeling like that's probably what that person wants. But I think there's a number of studies that show like if they don't associate that raise with their performance in some way, then it just becomes something that they forget about very quickly and it doesn't lead to better performance in the long run.
Yeah. Another thing that we do is I think we celebrate small wins well. Like when we bring on a client that's a good fit because we care about them and they're a good fit for us, where it's a win-win, we celebrate those. I think another thing that we do well is on Mondays, we start our serious meetings with everybody sharing about their weekend. And I think what's nice is everybody genuinely wants to know, hey, how was your family? How was that trip that you took? And it's not like everyone's sitting waiting to get through it. Like I feel like everybody genuinely cares about each other. And I think it's a great way to start the week. And I think that's rare.
I think we just went through most of this podcast saying, hey, this is what we do well. We do this well. We do that.
We'll talk about what we don't. We'll get
sounds
there.
like we do everything perfectly.
No. We'll get to that.
Let's not ask any of the employees.
Yeah, that's why we didn't interview anybody. I want to hit 2 things, and then we'll talk about what we could do better. One of the things I think it's important is asking people what they need. So not that we can't get better, but one of the things we often say is if there's something that we could do, we want to help as long as it's something that's reasonable.
Yeah.
So I think whether that's somebody's going through something difficult and they've got a bonus in 3-4 months and you give it to them early because they need it for something. Or I think if it's somebody struggling financially and it's like, hey, we actually have a financial service office, like the advice that we charge others for, like we can give that to you because you're part of the team. We want to help you win. Hey, you've got a situation going on. Let's step in and help you. You need to borrow a vehicle? I've got a car you can borrow. I think one of the things that we do really well is also help serve those people. What are some of the things we could do better?
There's probably a number of them, but I want to touch on this. This kind of drives me nuts because it's true, but also like it shouldn't always be true. I think here's what ends up happening. People don't remember
what you
like
said.
If you go out of your way and you do something nice for an employee, kind of like you said, as long as it's reasonable, we might be able to help you in this way and that way. I think enough time will go by and people won't remember any of those things, which for me is sad. It's like I look at that and I say, hey, like, don't you remember like when we did this for you and maybe we stepped in and we helped out in this situation?
Yeah, they don't.
At the
People
end of the
have
day,
a short memory.
You know what they remember? How they feel in that moment.
Right.
And I actually don't like that. I mean, yeah, it's important to create a culture. It's important to feel a certain way, but I don't like that your feelings are going to like override all of the things
all the facts.
Like, hey, like why don't we like have a little timeline and we show you like, hey, this is what it's been like for the last 6 months or a year and a half working with us. And if we have a bad moment where you feel bad and you feel negative, like let's not erase everything else that's been positive.
There's actually a statistic around this. And I know that,
like, what have you done for me lately? I feel like it's that type of attitude, and I don't like it.
The right way would be to have like where this was from, but basically what it was talking about when you have a relationship, and it wasn't talking about manager to employee or spouse. It was just talking about all relationships. It was like for every deposit that you make, so every good thing that I do for you, every withdrawal takes like 6 to 7 deposits. So it's like if you have 6 to 7 great moments, you can have 1 bad moment and you're kind of equal. But if you've got 10 good things and 2 negative things, those 2 negatives actually, they're heavier. They weigh more than all the other things that you did. Well, and that's true in every relationship.
In everything. Well, it's true in investing. Think about what we just talked about in the last podcast, where losses are felt, I don't know how many more times, prospect theory, whatever it was. compared to your gains. People would rather experience a gain. People feel the pain of a loss so many more times than they feel the gratification from a gain.
Yeah.
Think about like your sports teams. You know, they might be going on a 7-win streak, and they lose one game, and the fans are quickly, forgetting about all the success too. So I think that maybe it's just a human thing, but it doesn't make, if you're the person who's trying to be there, if you're trying to fill some of these needs and trying to go the extra mile, it doesn't make you feel good when one moment can erase all of that.
I think what's amazing is Steph and I, my wife, I'll never forget when we were dating, she and her brother were roommates. They had a 2-bedroom apartment. And one day I was like, hey, do you want to like hang out at my house? Do you want to go hang out at your apartment with your brother? And she was like, oh, today's not a good day to go hang out at my apartment. And I was like, oh. I go, why? And she'd be like, oh, well, the Vikings lost yesterday, and my brother's so mad he doesn't want anybody over. And I was like, so his favorite NFL football team lost a game yesterday, and today he's so angry he doesn't want to see people. And the truth was, I couldn't connect those things.
There's nothing.
But here's
I
what's
love
amazing is that I've heard dozens of people since say that they will have a bad day or days after their team lost, or great days after their team won, because it impacts them so much. And so the reason I just share that is one of the things that we've also learned is that we might not know what happened at home or what happened in their marriage or with their kids, but one of the things that people with a high EQ, people talk about IQ, which is an intelligent quotient, and EQ is emotional quotient, right?
Yeah.
People with a high EQ know how to separate those and go, hey, my favorite team lost, or I had an argument with my wife, but I'm going to put a smile on my face and I'm going to have fun with my coworkers and work hard today. One of our core values, I think, is just living in that way where it's like, we're going to choose a good attitude, whether it's a day that makes it easy to do that because it's beautiful outside, or because it's raining and lightning and my boat day was ruined and I'm going to have fun anyways today. 3 things. Core values are the compass. Number 2 is leaders, you are the culture. Number 3, have fun and create great morale if you're going to have a great culture. Anything you want to close with?
I think that's great.
Thanks for joining us today on the All Things Financial podcast. A little bit different because we talked about culture instead of finances. But if you're in a business, or you own a business, or you manage people, or you're the one being managed, I think today would be really helpful if you implement some of the things that we talked about. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.
Advisory services are offered through CG Advisory Services, LLC, a registered investment advisor, and through Guardian Wealth Strategies, LLC, a registered investment advisor. CG Advisory Services, LLC, and Guardian Wealth Strategies, LLC are separate and unaffiliated entities. The topics discussed on this podcast are for educational purposes only and are not intended to be investment advice or recommendations. Listeners should consult with their own financial professionals before making any investment decisions.